Okay, Murray, you wanted to talk about drudgery, in the circuit and the scene. Put it in your own words. The importance of the relevance in the circuit.
Well, we started as pretty much outsiders. So I was in a band in Montana prior to coming to Denver. Uh, this was the late '80s, early '90s, and that's where I was. I actually went to high school with the two guitarists in my band, and one was ended up being the first Drudgery guitarist,
Hmm.
Bill Hope,
Bill Hope.
and who passed away in 2014. Anyway, so that band fell apart, and I got upset, and I joined the Marine Corps.
Hmm.
So I was gone for 4 years, and
Hmm.
in that amount of time, I didn't have time for a band, but I did keep writing. And
Sure.
most of Drudgery's music was either written in that period or even stuff from the old band. Anyway, so I moved to Bill had moved to Denver because he was interested in starting up a band again with me, and I came up with the Drudgery idea in '94,
Hmm.
and I drew out the logo and everything, and just we just started making plans. And so he moved to Denver about 6 months prior in '95, and just kind
Right.
of established himself and checked out the scene a little bit. And there wasn't much going on there. I had mentioned to you before that it was the metal bands that the only metal bands I knew of were at the time were and I moved there in January '96 were
Right.
Corruption, and there was a band called Skull Flux, and they were kind of
Hmm.
more like Tool, still heavy though. But uh, so uh, anyway, I moved. I moved there in '96, and we started going right away. I had a bunch of money in the bank from uh, hoarding it away in those 4 years I was in the Marines, and
Sure.
so we had money for buy. I bought all new equipment, bought a PA. We had T-shirts made. We had a banner made, and uh, at the I don't remember when it was, maybe September.
Hmm.
A few months after we had brought Nick into the band to play drums, Nick Seelinger, uh, we recorded a CD, like a
Hmm.
4 song demo. Um, so we started out as and Nick was from up north. He wasn't from the Denver area at all,
Hmm.
uh, and so we didn't know anybody in Denver in the
Sure.
scene. In fact, it didn't seem like there was a scene. Uh,
Sure.
we we so when my old band broke up and I went in the Marines, that's when grunge was taken over,
Sure.
and like thrash metal, which is what we really were, had been forced way underground. I mean, unless you were Pantera or perhaps Sepultura at the time. So uh but we didn't care. Our attitude was we're thrash, so fuck you. We didn't
Hmm.
care. We're gonna do our thing, and we were always honest about our music. And so, but the problem is, uh, all the main clubs that would have been playing metal, they had all somewhat recently closed, and there was no place to play. Well, it seemed like that unless you knew somebody or you were
Sure.
already in. Um, and so we could not get a gig. So I had we had our CD out, and I put together a promo package, and I took it to every place that played music I could think of, and nothing happened that whole rest of the year. Um, and we finally got some interest down in Colorado Springs, and they had a much healthier metal scene at the time. And
Right.
so we played down there for a few years, and it went really well. And we met like the bands that we met for the first time in Colorado were actually the bands from Colorado Springs. Anyway, long story short, we ended up getting a gig at Cricket on the Hill,
Right.
but it was like a Tuesday night,
Right.
and no one knew us. You know, we uh, maybe we had a couple of friends that we had met in that amount of time, and that wasn't until like March of '97. So
Sure.
it took more than a year to get a gig in Denver, and then
Yeah.
when we did, it was So
All
anyway,
right. Set the record straight. In your interview with Maris the Great, you said you found the word drudgery looking for a name of a band. You went to the dictionary?
yeah. So so um, it's hard to have a good name these days because so many have been taken, and uh uh I just started at the beginning of the dictionary, and I just like kept going until I saw a word that I thought sounded cool, and I thought drug sounded cool, and thank God I only had to get into the D's because that
Mm-hmm.
would have taken forever. But and then nowadays there's no such thing as like a single word
Mm-hmm.
like metal band name that's good that hasn't been taken,
Right.
you know. So,
Right.
but the thing is, some years after we were kind of established in Colorado, we had found out that there was another band named Drudgery in um, Canada. I think it's been
Mm-hmm.
it's been years, but I think they started after us, and like I literally like when I first came up with a name and did a logo, I put it in an envelope and mailed it to myself and didn't open it, so it was postmarked,
Right.
in case we ever had a problem with that.
Right.
But uh, yeah, so you know, I guess what I'm saying is like when you don't have any friends in in the Denver area, and it's hard to get gigs because there weren't the venues there used to be in the earlier 90s.
Sure.
It was hard. No one knew us, and we just had to live and die by our music and you know what we put forth on stage. And I think both of those things started gaining us a little traction.
Sure.
People, I mean, everybody respects like when you're bringing it on stage,
Mm.
when you're giving it all. That's people are there to be entertained, and we definitely did that. Um and uh I think also one other thing that helped us is our we didn't spare any expense on recording. Now,
Sure.
we still were on a time crunch, like, because it's expensive for studio time, and at least studio time back then. Now you can just do it at home on your computer pretty much. But
Right.
the thing is, we spent a lot of money on our recordings. We were in and out of there pretty quick, because we didn't have money to burn. But I think, in fact, I remember Bill Terrell coming up to me once saying something about how amazing our album sounded, and I don't know if that was the second or third album or something like that.
It was
Um,
probably Path of Most
but
Resistance.
yeah, yeah, maybe, and I don't know. It's just we always seemed like had like it just seemed like from the feedback that we had the best sounding album that came out at the time.
Um,
Uh,
Many
there
will agree
seemed
with
to
you,
be,
especially
yeah,
Spargo.
yeah. It's at near our end though there were a lot of quality uh, sounding recordings coming out, and but it was more of a technology thing. As time went on, it got easier and cheaper to do a good recording. uh
Right.
I mean, I'm sure you've heard some of those 80s demos back in the
Of
day. They
course.
were horrible sounding,
Of
you
course.
know. But anyway, yeah, but it costs money. I just blew my entire savings on the band over the years, and but I don't regret any of it. I actually was, uh, like a lot of us, I wanted to make a career out of it, but uh, over time, I just decided I didn't have quite what it took to just put all of myself into it. But we can get around to that later.
Um,
So,
okay, I want you to go ahead and finish your point because that thing is what I want to roll in with that. Did you have anything else regarding drudgery in the scene?
um, other than it was a absolute grind, getting traction and getting uh like into the camaraderie of the scene, and of course I think we were at a time when all of these bands were trying to get Denver going again.
Hmm.
And then by the time the Blitz Room opened, and you know, it was all steamrolling at that point. And
Right.
everybody was super cool. I got along with everybody, all these bands, uh and that just took off after then. But it took a long time to get to that point where, like, hey, I knew all these other guys in the scene, and they knew us, and there was this mutual respect going around.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay, this is going to roll into my first topic. This is about after Drudgery lost Sealinger, and Steve
yeah,
Pat did a very capable job of drums. Everybody will agree with that. He's a fine drummer and all that. I
oh
couldn't
yeah,
help but notice in Throat Culture magazine interviews with Drudgery, you were sounding in a way. If I'm wrong, please set the record straight. You sounded like a guy that was like, okay, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this.
yeah. So that would have been, I
This is
don't
like
know,
2002.
maybe 2002. Yeah, when our last CD came out.
Yeah,
um I was just kind of burned out, and then yeah, just like anybody getting older, uh like life starts getting in the way. You're getting settled down more, um and I was that was like right before I met my future wife, and
right.
but so I met her like early 2003. But it was just a grind, and just being so frustrated with uh I guess my limitations and what I can control, because it's um I think I just felt like I was getting to a point where I it's like, this is the limit of what I can do as far as a, like, creator. Uh
Sure,
uh like, I mean, to this day, even though I have a bunch of music from back then that never got released, and I could
sure.
easily do another CD someday, or
Right.
album. I won't be a CD anymore, but uh uh and I hope to be able to do that before I die,
Sure.
to get some of that music out. But I don't think I was just, I felt like as a musician I couldn't really go any further. Um, so
Okay. I have an
one part of
observation
that,
on that.
okay,
I have an
go ahead.
observation. There's metal music, then there's all sorts of music. Then I thought there was drudgery. Drudgery on your part, your intensity was like 100 octane. While other performers can get by on 87, 89, drudgery to me required you at your utmost best. And when you got to that point, you were unstoppable, absolutely unstoppable. And I got a question for you. Deep Freeze Fest 3, your final gig, was that
Yeah,
a deliberate decision on your end? Somebody saying, okay, I'm done after this?
absolutely. I was, I mean, I started the band. It was, um, not to discredit anybody that was ever in the band, but it,
Sure.
it was an extension of myself,
Right.
uh, that was greatly covered or colored by all the people I played with. It was
Right.
always an extension of myself. A part of me died uh, a bit in the early days when my when Bill Hope left the band, and that was even before we even
Sure.
played a show. No, we did play. No, he left in I think the summer in '97. We'd only played a couple shows. I think a couple shows at the Cricket actually. Um, when he left, that took a lot of the air out of my sails because he was a trained musician, and he was one of those just theory minded like shredders that could play the most uh, complex stuff, and he really pushed me to be a better musician.
Sure.
uh, and when he left, it just became more of just like, okay, this is just my thing, and I am going to just push it as far as I can. And then
Sure.
so years later, you're talking about our last show at the, was that Deep Freeze 3?
Yeah, deep freeze for the free. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was just done. I you get, I mean, I still get along with Jeff and Steve.
Of course.
Definitely. But I think I was tired of them at the time, and it just needed to uh it needed to end. That didn't mean I was going to be done with music, but I was
Right.
definitely done with playing uh in a band, I guess.
Well, okay.
And I
Well,
also, yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. Drudgery to me on your part required 110% of you. Every song, every night. How accurate is how that's my theory. Is there any accuracy in it?
Oh, I think it's 100% accurate because uh the roots of all those songs, at least lyrically, were very emotional for me.
Right.
Uh, to the point where, this is another thing, Ty. I ended up getting burned out on myself. Like,
Sure.
I was tired of like airing my emotions out in public and the things that bothered me and just whatever kind of drama I was going on. And
Hmm.
I got tired. So yeah, that intensity that you're talking about, it was like cathartic for me. And so those each of those songs had great meaning to me, and I just think I kind of burned myself out in
Sure.
I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's just,
No.
you can't, it's hard, it's rare to find musicians that can keep that kind of intensity
I
going, especially if it's personal like it was to me.
yeah. I've got two things on that. That's that Pinky show you did with Drug Under and Grounded, which you got a copy of that story because that story that next
Yeah.
day my boss told me we're gonna get the stage built.
Yeah.
My boss, Tony Tallarico, God rest his soul, he was one part Tony Soprano, one part Archie Bunker. He was an interesting combination for a boss. And when, about a year and a half before that, when I took over the bookings of Pinky's, when we were on that floor and other whatnots, and he was there at every show. He doing that. The morning after when he told me he was doing it, he says, that guy in the last band, that man played like he was, it was his last day on earth. That you influenced a 60-year-old man who thinks the big bopper's too heavy is heavy metal to him. You made a lasting influence on my boss that night.
Oh, that's great. I mean, isn't that, I've okay, I gotta say, I've never understood musicians that want to play live but are boring on stage. I've never
Right.
understood that. Well, wait a second. No, I mean, let's limit that to the metal genre,
Sure.
because I mean, there's another I was also influenced by New York hardcore. We had a
Right.
little bit of that edge in our music, and they, that kind of music packs a punch too. The intensity of it's just like a confrontational kind of thing. But I've never, yeah, it's just like, if you're gonna play live, you know, you gotta, well, play, okay. I mean, yeah, there was some emotional baggage with it that I was relieving, but of the songs themselves. But at the same time, I mean, as just a fan of the music, and I mean metal in general, I was the kind of guy that would like to rage at shows. I like to bang my head when I had hair, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, I'd like to be in the pit and everything like that. So it was just the same thing up on stage. So
Mm-hmm.
it was fun, but it was cathartic. And and I gave a shit about the people watching. I
Sure,
want to put on a show. They pay the money.
sure.
They're paying attention to you, so I wanted to hold it.
Yeah.
So
Here's another theory I'm going to take a stab at, and I'm going to talk about negative residual energy, that album, which, by the way, out of the three, Strength Beyond the Pain is an EP. That was a starter. I liked Lost Art of Dying, Path of Most Resistance, and Negative Residual Energy in that order. And Negative
mhm.
Residual Energy definitely had some really great tracks to it. But I thought the last track, Infinite Gravity, it felt like that was the last song you were ever going to do. And a part of me kind of wondered, did Murray know that? Is any of this remotely accurate?
Wow, I'd never thought of it that way. It's not accurate, but I think it's appropriate. I mean,
Mm.
uh, yeah, that was a kind of a good
It came
ender for
across
the
to me
band,
like,
I think.
that's it. That's it. There's no more after
Yeah,
this.
I
This is
mean,
it.
some of it, like lyrically, I think that works. Uh, just the I don't know, the weight of existence.
Mm.
um, uh, but what's really interesting about that, Ty, is
Mm.
that song I wrote in 91 in
Mm.
Montana with my old band.
Mm.
In fact, we never even got around to playing it as a band, but that it was when I was in that band, and I held on to that thing for obviously years, and uh, so that it's weird. It wasn't even a Drudgery song originally,
Right.
but it ended up being the bookend, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, my friend, we're gonna go ahead and lighten up a little bit.
All
We're gonna
right.
talk. We're gonna talk about you were at a lot of them, and so was I. And unlike you, you had a good time. I went 0 for 7, I think. I just Keith Spargo's Christmas parties at both
Oh,
houses, 355 Gold Coast Circle and on West Street. You had
yep.
something called Murray's Death Nog. What what came into that? I drank it once. We'll get back into that in a minute. In a minute.
Okay.
What went in the Murray Neill's Death Nog?
Oh, it was. I don't even know if you knew this, but it was different every single year, and that was kind of the point. But so Death Nog was just it's just a play on eggnog, like spiked eggnog, but I would do something different every single year. So no
Right.
one knew what they were going to get into, and uh, and I would I basically have one of those, like, what are they, half-gallon cartons
Mm,
of eggnog I get from the store, and I'd have another like old milk carton, and I would it would basically be half eggnog, half different kinds of liquor and liqueurs and stuff like that,
mm,
and then I would just mix that whole batch together and then pour them in another container, and then pour them into the two,
right.
and I although I think I'd only I don't know, there may have been a couple times I brought uh two of those containers, but I made my own labels and printed them out, and I remember Spargo used to always have those on his refrigerators,
Mm,
the old Death Nog labels. I mean, I still got them on a computer somewhere, but yeah, that was fun times. It wasn't your traditional just eggnog and rum. I mean, I remember doing uh doing well, there's always rum in it, but doing Baileys, doing some kind of cinnamon schnapps or I don't know, some kind of chocolate liqueur, just all kinds of stuff. But it was pretty heavy stuff, but it always tasted good, and everyone really appreciated me bringing it.
Right.
Um,
Well,
but
I remember
yeah,
my first and only imbibement of it was the O2 party. That was after you and I got Drudgery booked for that show with Drug Under, a couple of months, prior, and that's when
yeah,
you and I kind of started talking. And
yeah.
I just remember just taking a big drink of it, and I hadn't eaten anything. And that was
Oh
just
no.
grounds for me. And now to boot, Mark Grabowski from Corruption, you know him and his growling, and Keith Spargo's
Uh huh.
absolute desire to sing Christmas carols during the parties, right?
Yes,
Okay,
that
I
was the
got sick.
best.
I got sick. I ended up puking in the toilet. During all that, Keith is leading a rendition of Deck the Halls, and I can hear Mark Grabowski distinctively, la, 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 la.
Oh
If
man,
we
I miss those get-togethers.
That was a moment I'm just kind of
Those are the
like,
best.
I can't, it's like, I can't catch a break at these parties ever. You know, but
uh,
it's those are moments like those. I just think, the little things like that. It's not just a show, it's a camaraderie amongst us that I think it's just like, yeah, that was a great time. So, um, that rolls into my next thing. The people in the music circuit that you eventually became friends to this day, I'd like to start with Keith Spargo because I remember when we first went to the Blitz room and we saw you guys, he was like frozen. He was like, "Oh my God, this trio is just
oh.
absolutely incredible." But you were a huge, you set the bar for him. And he
He
can
told me
attest to
that
this.
recently. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and Keith is one of my better friends to this day.
mm,
I never we've never hung out uh as much as I always wanted to. And of course we don't even live in the same state anymore. But even back
sure.
then I remember, he's a busy guy and he's got like a million friends and stuff. But we've always had that connection and today we still talk in some form or the other, you know, every month. And uh, he, he was at I invited him to my wedding. So along with a few other guys from the scene, but no, he's a great guy, and uh, we were always like big fans of each other's band.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, I mean, Silencer was my favorite band in Colorado for
Hmm.
most of the years that I lived there. Um, and I did, I appreciate how he did look up to us and we inspired him. The music doesn't sound, I mean, other than having a thrash roots, our bands were different otherwise, but uh, definitely compatible. And yeah, Keith, he's a special human being for sure.
I can, I can, I can attest to this. I remember when Drudgery was part of the Crow Now CD release show, I believe for their
Yeah.
Tenfold album. It was at the Sherman Events Center. And the Sherman
Yep.
Events Center, Murray, that was the weirdest arrangement I ever saw in a live music venue. You go in, then there was a place where you could drink, and there was a place some people could smoke, but you couldn't drink or smoke in the main music room. That was the
Yeah.
strangest thing I ever encountered. And a
It,
part of me
very
wanted to
strange
go.
place. I mean, I don't think was there ever any other shows there. I don't
There
ever
were a
remember
few.
any.
Well, Corruption did a comeback show there, with SFA and Silencer. Matter of fact, Silencer, that was Dan Lynn's very first show as lead guitarist because Richie
Oh,
Wilkinson from Angel Dust, remember he helped with the Structures
oh
album?
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Richie Wilkinson emailed Keith earlier that week, I can't stay in the band. And Dan Lynn
yeah.
filled in. He was with Dan was with a band called Ember back then.
Yep, I remember. I
Uh,
remember seeing Ember.
right. And just it's like the only reason I went to the Sherman Event Center was for two bands, Drudgery and Silencer. Everybody else could kiss my foot. You know, and a part of
Yeah.
me just wanted to
Uh,
tell Boyd and Brent Fox, I'm like, this arrangement makes no bleeping sense. I can understand
yeah,
maybe
but
not.
you know, we
I can live with the not
we didn't
smoking, but
care where we yeah, Ty, we
right,
didn't care where we played. Like I said, when we started, we couldn't find any place to play. So it didn't really
sure,
matter. In fact, to this day, I can't even remember how we got gigs. Uh, I think it was just word of mouth and just like, I mean, I'm sure the other guys in the band got gigs for us, but uh, after my initial hustle to get gigs in Denver, it seemed like they just came to us, like
sure.
people would ask us, and we didn't care where it was. But yeah, the Sherman Event Center, that was a unique place for sure.
Okay.
Uh,
Outside of Drudgery, like Jeff and Nick and Steve,
uh-huh.
other people that you really made a good connection with that to this day you're very, you think of them well. Just anybody come to mind?
Oh, so many. I mean,
Right.
it's hard for me to think of anybody I didn't get along with. I mean, yeah, just most people weren't standoffish.
Sure.
Everyone was cool. Some people were a little more outgoing than others. Um, Keith is the only one I continually keep in touch with. But this whole project, I've rekindled uh, my friendship with Scott Dankel,
Mm-hmm.
which I lost track of him because he just kind of
Mm-hmm.
disappeared, and I didn't even know what state he lived in. So that's been really cool. In fact, I just mailed him a CD this afternoon.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something that he didn't have, and so yeah, I really got along well with Scott.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
I got along well with. Oh, did you want me to
Okay.
give more
I'm gonna go
names?
ahead.
I can.
In this project, I had the four horsemen. The four horsemen consisted of you, Scott Dankel, um, John Bollock, and Shane
Hey,
Martwick.
the Rogue guys were always cool
Mm,
to me. I mean, especially Bill. He
mm,
was just. Uh, I mean, he just gave us opportunities, because
mhm.
he respected what we were doing, and yeah, those guys were great. But I really remember the guys in Tread and the guys in
Mm,
Throat Culture, later Throat
mm,
Cult. All
mhm,
those people got along great with.
mhm,
It was always good to see Mark from Corruption. He was always super cool uh, to me. The Brent and Boyd were cool.
mhm,
Uh, God, all the guys in S of A. Uh, Aaron and Tirade.
mhm,
Uh, and the guys in Cerberus too.
mhm.
Absolutely.
Right.
There were so many. I mean, I I've kept all of our old flyers, and I
We'll
think I have
talk
a
about
list of
that.
all the bands we played with. Yeah,
We'll be talking about
there's
that
so
shortly.
many people. I mean, it was a big scene for a while. It
Well,
really
yeah,
was.
it was truly remarkable. Now I want to roll to the one topic I wanted to talk to you about the very, very most, and I saved the best for last. I've talked to everybody on my one-on-ones about where they feel and where they stand about live music in the year 2100 and what role AI will have in it. How do you see it in the year 2100?
I think there will always be a market for real humans writing real music and performing on real instruments live. I think there will always be a market for that. I don't think that's ever going away. But just like how we have seen uh, like album sales kind of go away as far as a moneymaker for bands, and it's transitioned into they make their money playing shows. And like
Hmm.
gone are the days of bands like the Beatles, because they stopped playing shows, and but they didn't need to play shows to make a living, you know.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, but now, you know, it's like if you can't play live, you're not really going to make money. So I think it's just going to transition into different things. I think there's going to be a lot of a. I'm sure there'll be a lot of. Well, there already is more and more AI generated music coming out there. And I don't know. I mean, it's not my thing. Because I always respected the craft of songwriting. You know that just comes like where you create something from nothing.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, we all have our influences, but that always meant so much to me. And I was fortunate to be able to actually do that myself because I've always been creative. I just, and then just the amazing musicianship that a human can achieve, the technical skills and I think that'll always exist. There's gonna it's I think there's just gonna be more of other kind of things. And I'm guess you know who knows what's going to happen to AI. I think it's actually kind of developing a bubble right now that might burst. I don't think it's ever going to go away, but I think there's too much negative baggage with it right now. So I think there'll probably be I think people are going to get fed up with it because of things where it's being used in a harmful kind of way. Uh, so music, but I totally see it, you know, being used to generate music. But I don't think it's people love art and
Hmm.
any kind of art. And so there'll always be a place for real people playing real music, uh, creating real music and playing real music. Uh, but you know, I'm already feeling old in the you know, like I'm still pissed that I can't. It's getting more difficult to buy a CD and have a place to play it. You know, I
Sure.
can't play it in my car. I can't play it on my you know, like I had to burn a CD the other day and I can't do it on my new laptop. I had to go to my old Windows 7 desktop and burn a
Mm.
CD right there.
Right.
And then most people you want to give a CD to don't have a place to play it, you know, and it's just
Right.
like, ugh, you know, um, but that's just because I'm just getting old, you know. I mean, when I was a little kid, I was buying 8 tracks. That's how
Right.
old I am.
Right.
So in the 70s, you know. So uh, uh you know, I, you you have to be tolerant of change. You know, change isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just it's gonna happen. But yeah, no, I'm not worried about music.
Okay.
I'm continually impressed by like young people coming in into the metal scene. Like, you know, some of them I see are just like, wow, it's like you're like you're so young, but you're doing something fresh, you know.
Sure.
I mean, you see a lot of people, a lot of young people, you know, regurgitating like old things. Uh, that's happened in thrash over the years, you know, the last 20 years or so. But I still see young bands, you know, kids that, you know, they could I could easily be their dad, and they're killing it and doing you know putting their own mark on what they're creating.
Sure. All right. I would say this. The one song I think that epitomizes drudgery, and I remember, my wife has been watching these podcasts and is, learning a little bit more about people. I played her Cast Aside, and her jaw
Interesting.
dropped. I think Cast Aside, to me, epitomizes what drudgery was about in under 2 minutes. My big question to you is, if someone if someone asked you, can I cover Cast Aside? Would you say yes? And if you did say yes, would the back of your head said, good luck, dude?
Oh no, no, wow, Cast Aside. Okay, so we always play that live because that was a banger. Uh,
Uh-huh.
it's get in, kick ass, get out. What's interesting about Cast Aside though is that's one of the ones that Jeff wrote that brought to the
Right.
band. Um, uh, uh, he even had lyrics for it. I modified them just a little bit, but that ended up being I don't know. It kind of reminded me of 80s Testament kind of thrash.
Sure.
And yeah, I that was a great song, and the shortness of it really was it was more of reminded me of my New York hardcore influence. That
Hmm.
it being really short and punchy and just kick you in the teeth and get out.
Right.
Um, uh, but no, I I I don't know. I mean, when someone wants to uh, do another band's song, they typically can do it. Uh,
Sure.
and I don't think anybody would have. I mean, the thing is, I mean, I'm sure you've seen some of these young players of the last 20 years that have come out that they seem like they could have played circles around anybody from before. It's not
Right.
really true. It's just I think kids today are starting to master or get into their instruments earlier, and by the time some of these younger bands are getting out there, they've been playing for years. Where
Sure.
uh, someone like me, we literally use the band as a vehicle to learn how to play our instruments.
Hmm.
And it was like the veteran in a band when I think back in years ago would have been like, yeah, he's been playing guitar for 2 years, and we're just like, yeah, I'm learning how to play right now. And uh I don't think if someone wanted to cover that song, I don't think they'd have a problem. I mean, it may be kind of difficult if you took someone from like our age group
Hmm.
to do it. Yeah, they would struggle with it, but some of these younger musicians, they could do it absolutely, and that would be the coolest thing in the world.
All right.
I love that.
Final question. What would 2026 Murray Neill tell the 1996 Murray Neill if you had the opportunity to talk to you the third, 30 years ago? What would you have told him? One thing.
Don't take yourself so seriously and
Sure.
have fun.
Right.
I was and it wasn't just the music, it was just how I dealt with like relationships with women. It's just everything. It's just like, don't worry about the to to make a broader statement of my initial sentence is like, instead of looking at the long term, just enjoy the now.
Hmm.
There's so many times I was just looking too far ahead, and I didn't enjoy myself like I could have. And I
Sure.
think that's just good I think that's just good uh advice for life. You
Right.
know, live in the present.
Right.
Yeah, you try to shoot. You shoot for always shoot for the stars, but
Right.
don't like if you have anything garbage in the past, resolve it and
Hmm.
then live in the present.
Sure.
Get the most out of the time that you have.
Okay. All right, my friend.